has it, I will ask her to kind of send it across. Okay. WhatsApp, mail, some if whatever is feasible right now, we'll do it. Maybe either through WhatsApp. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Bye. You got the password?
Yeah, I've created the link.
Okay. Oh yeah, I saw it. You have that questions handy?
Yeah, I'll send it over.
Yeah. Okay.
We can start admitting if we have people join.
No, only 2 participants, you and me. That's it.
Cool. Let's wait.
Yeah, let's wait. So March 8th session, that will be a weekday, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's next Monday, I think.
I've sent the questions to you on WhatsApp.
WhatsApp? Okay.
04.
Any point of contact from QSAT?
Yeah, Nimi.
You want to quickly check with her?
Sure. There are 4 people in the room. Just should we start admitting people?
How many are there?
I don't see the. There's Ranjani is added. I'll admit her.
Yeah, you can admit Ranjani. Hi Ranjani, good evening.
Hello, can you hear us?
Ranjani, I think.
I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for joining. Ranjani,
Yeah,
we're
I'm
just
okay.
waiting for a few more folks to join and
Sure.
then we'll admit them.
Sure. Yep. And I'm going to be off video just to make sure that my voice is okay. All right.
No problem.
That's okay. That's really
fine.
Vinita, let me know when to start. I'll just share my screen and be ready.
6:05. You want to start admitting folks?
Just a second. Let me just share screen.
Benita, just one request. I had one quick request for you, Benita. If
Tell me, yeah.
you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, we are losing you, Ranjani. I'm not able to hear you.
Introduction or something. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was saying, I forgot to add that as part of my recording, but if you were to introduce, can you just call out the disclaimer that views and opinions are personal? That's one of the things which is required as part of our social media norms. So if you could just call that out, that'll be great. Or I can do that as well if you're okay.
Yeah, so I'll do. I think you should do that, Ranjani. Okay, but it's your topic. So once Julian completes the WITS introduction, I'll quickly pass it on to you. Maybe you can just do a 10-second
Sure.
introduction, or you just want to talk about this, and then we'll start the recording. All right?
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
Vinita, do you see the PPT?
Yeah, I can see the PPT.
Okay, great. So I'll just go ahead and start.
So I can see just Nimmi has joined. Anyone else in the room?
I'm not sure. Just as I since let's not waste time, let's just start this and we'll admit people as they come and go. Is that okay?
All right, sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So can you mute everybody else?
Sure. Yeah, I can. You are the host, Julian, so I think you can. I don't think I can mute.
Okay, just a second. Let me go back to Zoom. Okay, yeah. So let me start. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are on our third weekly series for the data science series that we have planned for WIDS Kerala. So I would like to just give you a quick introduction. I'm Julian. Me and my co-ambassadors, Kartika, Aksa, Khushbu, started WIDS Mumbai in 2018. It's been 3 to 4 years since we're doing that, but there was no WIDS Kerala. And there were a lot of people that asked for this. So this year with Benita and Prashansa, we started WIDS Kerala. What WIDS is Women in Data Science. Stanford, there was the very first conference, data science conference, was held at Stanford in 2015. And since then, it has actually spread out to multiple cities, multiple countries. You have regional ambassadors from every city trying to create a platform where women data scientists and analytics leaders in analytics can actually come forward and showcase their work and experience and share with other women who they can actually be a part of this amazing field. And the aim is basically to inspire more women to join the field, to educate other all aspiring data scientists, and to support data scientists regardless of their gender. So globally, though it has been like 4 years, every year we also have something called the Datathon, which we had actually done a workshop that just got over on February 6th. And if you've not attended that, you can go ahead and check out our talks on YouTube. It's in the same channel where we're streaming this right now as well. And the plan for this year is 2 tech talks every month. So it's going to happen on weekends in order to ensure that you guys can still make your weekends productive, learn a lot more about data science from experts. We're making sure that we reach out to all of the wonderful women out there who can actually break it down to you guys. You can ask questions and understand what happens once you get into the industry. So there's also, once these talks are over, we are also planning podcast interviews with speakers, with women leaders from these specific fields. We are focusing on these 3 domains this year. Last year, we had 5 episodes. The name of the podcast is Data Science Sagas. It's available on Spotify. Do check it out. And after all of that, we're also planning to have an outreach program that is going to introduce high school students to data science in a fun way. We let you know how that goes. We're planning to reach out to schools in Kochi and some in Indore, and there'll be some schools. Fingers crossed for that. And do stay in touch with us. Let us know if you have any queries. We are available on Twitter and LinkedIn. So the talk for today, I'm handing it over to Vinita. We have a very special guest today with us. Vinita.
Yeah, thank you, Julian, for that introduction. And good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining. The speaker for today is Ranjani Mani. She's a global analytics leader for VMware. So, what I will do is I will pass on to Ranjani, who will do a short introduction and also talk. And we will be playing a recording of the video that she has passed on to us. So, over to you, Ranjani.
Yes, thanks, Benita. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in, and the great introduction, Julian. That was really good to know, right, in terms of all the efforts that you're taking and bringing more women into the space. It is a personal area of passion of getting more women into STEM, specifically into analytics. So I'm super glad to be here and have this opportunity to share learnings. Hope you find this useful. Yeah, with that, I'll let you guys get started.
All right. Thanks, Ranjani. I'll just share my screen. I'll just share the recording. Just give me a moment.
Yeah. While you do that, I do want to also call out, right, that views and opinions expressed here are personal. And if to reach.
Yeah, all right. We'll get started. Julian, can you give me the rights? I'm not able to share.
Okay. More make a host. Yes.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Julian,
yeah,
it's blank. It's white screen.
What about now?
Yes, I see the presentation now. Yes.
All right. Okay. So I'll get started.
Yeah.
Hope you folks are doing good. Hello, everyone. Hope you folks are doing good. Thank you for joining in today. And today we're going to talk about a problem which you would benefit from knowing more about. And this is irrespective of whether you are a data science aspirant, practitioner, or a leader, right? The million-dollar question: why do a majority of AI projects fail? Based on both personal learnings and work in this space, I have narrowed this down to 4 areas. And I'm going to give you pointers that you can take away both to yourselves and to your organizations. I am Ranjani. I lead a global advanced analytics and data sciences team whose charter is to solve business problems with data across both business analytics and data science for customer experience and success at VMware. My interests lie in driving business value and decision making with analytics, strategy, and leadership. I'm quite passionate about bringing more women into STEM, specifically into analytics as such, right? And hence, I'm super excited to be here as part of WiDS Kerala. All right. So, without much further ado, let's get started with the slides. All right.
So, first of all, who is this for, and what will you take away at the end of these 25 odd minutes? Now, if you are an IC working in this space, individual contributor that is, or looking at breaking into data sciences, you can learn what is the type of work and role that you can play and how you can position yourself to become a linchpin, right? You will also learn what it takes to drive value with AI beyond model building. Now, if you happen to be a leader managing analysts and data scientists in this space, we look at what you need to enable for your AI talent to drive success and the most important questions that most leaders in this space face. How do you balance innovation and keeping your team motivated along with delivering business value, right? Okay, so let's start with this, right? This slide, I think it kind of speaks for itself. Gartner recently predicted that 80% of analytics insights will not deliver business outcomes. Now, I'm going to pause here. That's a huge number, right? Especially for a sector that is touted as the sexiest job of the 21st century by HBR. And there are many more metrics that reiterate this narrative. Yeah, there was this really great report I recommend you guys check out as well. It was published by BCG and MIT Sloan School of Management. It is called Winning with AI. Now, it talks about the conundrum that companies seem to face around the hype that surrounds the field, right? Like you can see here, 9 out of 10 respondents, they agree that AI represents a business opportunity for the company, but only 7 out of 10 companies actually reported any impact based on the investments done so far. Now, why is this the case, right? There's this perception that, AI is thought of as alchemy run by wizards, and it doesn't necessarily have actual value. And this where's this gap coming in from? So there's this case study, this is a real life case study, which I've kind of included here. And it's a solid example of the gap that exists between business and data science. And one which is more common than you ideally would expect and imagine, especially if you're working on NLP related problems. Now, I do have all the links for further research in the reference sections if you want to check out later. Now, getting back to this case study, right? It talks about this company. What they did is they opted for a recommender system they could use by their customer service representatives. And it was supposed to suggest solutions to common customer issues. Yeah. Now, this project was supposed to be a huge cost saver in itself for the company. Now, it took the company a few months to realize that the agents weren't using it at all. And then it took some more to realize why, right? They realized then that it wasn't necessarily a problem with the algorithm, but the data on which the models were trained. So it was trained on an ideal set of technical descriptions versus what the customer actually entered. Now, apart from this, they also realized that there were like overlapping categories in the data, which wasn't taken into consideration when they were training the model. Now, what this highlights is that, and it's a key point, right, which some data scientists seem to miss around design thinking and thinking of the technical problem from the perspective of the user while we are developing our models. So why do we do what we do, right? So with that context, let's get into the 4 key reasons why the AI projects fail. I've bucketed this into these areas, right? So to quote this famous title, let's start with why. Strategy, right? Is the AI strategy driven from the business problem, or is it actually an afterthought? Talent, how do we hire? Who do you hire, right? Leadership, are you enabling your talent to drive value? And I cannot stress on the significance of this enough, right? And finally, we look at lessons from Pixar on The Ugly Baby and the Beast, how you need to balance innovation with driving business value and how critical this is, especially in AI/ML. All right. With that high-level overview, let's now consider each in more detail. All right. starting with strategy. And I think this is such a deal breaker in deciding the success of your projects, right? Why are we doing what we're doing? Now, BCG recently called out a research that highlighted the need to integrate the AI strategy with the business strategy. What does that mean? Are you starting with the business problem? Now, if you think about it, right, AI cannot exist in vacuum without business context, and something which we just saw in the case study we reviewed earlier, right? So related to that question around when does AI come into the picture? In case of a product where you eventually anticipate data generated that can be used for analytics, are we actually ensuring that this is capturing and rendering data to drive capabilities, right? Are you actually thinking about it when you're designing the product, or does it come up only after you figure out what platforms, once you finalize the platforms, which is collecting, say, the telemetry data? So is it, if you're helping drive decision top down as a priority from leadership, or it's more of a good to have, right? So where does it fit in? I think that's critical. And the other thing around AI is it is a team sport, right? To succeed, we need to build collaboratively, and this is people across teams. Most of the time when you work on problems, it involves multiple teams, right? Like the product management, the engineering teams, technical teams, the data scientist team. All of them need to come together to work on a solution. And like BCG highlighted, AI is less about technology and more about business transformation. For example, say you're building a recommender. Now that ideally needs to be integrated into, say, Salesforce. Now that requires a process change itself, right? Not just algorithms to be successful. So are you thinking about that also? And finally, again, how will this information be consumed, right? And I think the consumption of AI is relatively given lesser importance compared to production, which probably explains why 87% of models never even make it to production, right? Have we actually considered who are the users and how will they adopt this? Do we need an API? Do we need a visual application? How will this be consumed? And more importantly, what is the success outcome, right? For example, some edge case prediction problems. What is good enough, right, to be useful for the business, right? I think there's, again, like a drop in terms of where the value falls around your iteration. So defining that success metric is very critical. And this comes back to the point, right? Is my understanding of the outcome the same as the user's understanding? Now, this may be therefore a very relatable post, right? This is a dynamically changing environment and one that requires you to be comfortable with ambiguity. It is easy to get into scope creep if we are not diligent. And finally, it helps to temper our expectations on what an out-of-box solution can and cannot do. Yeah. All right. So with that, let's move on to another favorite part, another one of my favorite parts, right? How do you set up a high-performance team? So Pixar's founder, Ed Catmull, was once asked this question, apparently. Yeah. Is it important to have great people or great ideas? So he apparently said that if you give a good idea to a mediocre team, they will screw up, yeah? But if you give a mediocre idea to a brilliant team, they will either fix it or throw it away and come up with something better. I love that quote, right? So it is people is everything. Having the right set of folks can be a disruptive driver to any team. So how do we hire a team that delivers? First thing is to hire right? So if you're a builder, people don't care what kind of hammer or nails or wood or tools are used. They want a well-constructed house at the outcome of it, right? So it's pretty much same, even in analytics, right? The business stakeholder who uses it, they don't really care how you built it out as long as the result delivers. Doesn't matter to them whether you're using R or Python, right? What are the underlying layers? It doesn't matter at all. So that is a mindset, or at least awareness, which data scientists need to have. And I definitely believe in hiring for attitude and training for skills, right? So the second step again is to hire diverse. And can't stress this enough, right? I think data scientist in itself as a term is such an overloaded word. There are different types of roles, which I think it takes to make a team successful in data sciences. And this includes data engineers, business analysts, data scientists, etc., right? And you can kind of see the roles here and how they interact, right? Are you actually hiring a complementary skill set team? And most importantly, I think it's also important to have a data translator who can tell the story, right? And storytelling is such a critical role to play, especially when you're working with a large number of business stakeholders. And finally, hire smart, right? Job description for most roles is very, very generic. If you are the hiring manager, it would help to spend time to be more specific on what you actually need the profile to support. This would actually help weed out profiles which are irrelevant. Mediocrity in this space will definitely deem your team irrelevant as well. So do ensure that you hire folks who are smarter than yourself to increase the intellectual capital of the team. So there's this quote over here, right? And probably I don't have it here. I remember reading this by Cassie, who is the chief decision intelligence engineer at Google. She uses this analogy, right? Imagine you're hiring a chef to build an oven or an electrical engineer to bake bread for you. When it comes to machine learning, that's the kind of mistakes I see businesses making over and over. If you're opening a bakery, she says, it's a great idea to hire an experienced baker who's well versed in the nuances of making delicious bread and pastry. You'd also want an oven. Like, while the oven is a critical tool, I bet you wouldn't charge your top pastry chef with the task of knowing how to build that oven. So why is your company focused on the equivalent for machine learning, right? So I think that's such a great analogy. So are you in the business of baking, making bread or making ovens? So what is it that you want your resources to do? Yeah. All right. With that, let's move on to the next section, right? Leadership. Are you enabling your AI talent to drive value? And what does it mean to enable in itself, right? So let's start with data. Again, this could be very relatable, especially if you're working in the space. Data is such a double-edged sword, right? It is a prerequisite for us to build out analytics capabilities, but across most organizations, it's highly siloed. It's collected in multiple platforms. It exists in different data lakes. There are multiple owners. There are different formats. And again, it's present at different places with different privacy options and with no way of even being able to join one with another, right? I once remember coming across this post of how a customer location for Philadelphia was spelled out in like 100 plus different ways. And it isn't even funny, right, for the analyst who's pulling out this information. So before we even embark on a fancy new AI project, can we take a step back to consider the data question? Is the data cleaned, collected, and accessible in a consistent and reliable manner, right? And related to the first point, how do we enable a robust and reliable environment? Do we have access to the compute, right? Are there data engineering capabilities for building reusable pipelines? Is there infrastructure available across the end-to-end value chain from data capture to disseminating the results, right? And are we also building reusable intelligence? So, for example, we work on a lot of NLP problems which require a ton of pre-processing, right? Can this actually be standardized and streamlined so that we don't have to start from scratch each time, yeah? And the third point here is to reiterate that ML is not magic, right? Garbage in, garbage out. I think we have at times tried out like best-in-class NLP algorithms, but still struggled because we didn't integrate the business context, right? The key, therefore, is to keep it simple, and set clear expectations on what can and cannot be accomplished with the data and capabilities which is available. And one of the biggest opportunities for all of us today is to figure out how we can educate the business leaders across the organizations, right? So finally, cannot stress the significance of being able to communicate with business stakeholders. Again, having the leadership help connect the dots and drive the decisions from insights is crucial. And I have this really funny tweet here. Clean data is close to a myth, right? And this shows how that pristine data doesn't directly exist. Data prep is still a majority of the time taken by data scientists, right? And that explains why, when you do projects with like really clean data as part of, say, programs which you might be doing, like out of the MOOCs and online courses, it is way different from what a real life problem looks at, right? So if you do have a chance to volunteer for like stretch assignments or being part of teams to shadow projects within your own organizations to actually understand how a real data science project works, right? It's way more complicated across end to end, right? From design to delivery. Okay. So with that, the final section of the presentation today, and it's one of my favorite analogies that applies across industries, more so within the space, right? It's called the ugly baby and the beast, or how do we balance innovation and drive business value? So we all know the very famous founder of Pixar, Steve Jobs, but we may not have heard of this co-founder, right, called Ed Catmull. So he apparently authored this brilliant book on how Pixar fosters creativity. It's called Creativity Inc., in case you want to pick it up. So among the many different frameworks which he proposes on how one can overcome the unseen forces that stand in the way of true inspiration is the story of the ugly baby and the beast, right? So he says early on, all of the movies we made sucked, right? Pixar films were not good at all at first. And our job, he says, is to make them go from suck to not suck, right? So he describes how companies often do not spend enough time nurturing and improving an initial idea and quickly produce something lacking because of the pressure to feed the hungry beast, right? Beast is... in the business is basically like business as usual, right? Something which makes money and that has got to be fed. And that's a reality, right? You can't do away with it. You still need to run the business. But new ideas are fragile, right? They do not look good and they take protection and you cannot judge them at that point. You can see how well the team is working together, but you cannot judge the idea. So we have to go from that stage to somehow with the engagement with the beast. And that's a long process, but that's a normal thing, right? You cannot protect the baby forever. Sometimes you have to, let it out in the world as well. So I think the bottom line is there needs to be this balance, right? Between being innovative and creative and also be able to deliver value. So the idea is to allow data scientists to iterate because you cannot, the first iteration of what you do is not going to be, beautiful, but you need to let them iterate, but at the same time also be able to drive business value with projects, right? Because if that doesn't happen, people are just going to lose hope in terms of what AI can deliver. So I think that's the key, right? How do we balance between the two, innovating and driving business value? And that's why I thought this was a great analogy that way, right? So with that, I will probably wrap up our session today. I once again thank WiDS Kerala for this opportunity, and I hope this has been useful to all of you. Feel free to reach out to me for any follow-up questions, either on LinkedIn or on my website listed here. Thank you again, and you have a great day. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
All right. Thank you, Ranjani. And we have Ranjani here. So if anyone in the audience has any questions, you can take that up now with Ranjani. Ranjani, there is one question. Ranjani, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Nimi.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there is one question. If you can see that I'm not sharing the chat. All right.
Mhm.
I'll just call out the question. A prestige institution used AI for staffing. All right. And the results were highly biased against women. How could you explain this? Even trial run is costly. How could small size companies tolerate this?
Right. No, this is an interesting topic in itself, right? Like ethical AI. And there have been multiple places where this has been brought up. So think about it, right? AI models, it models real life, right? So what you see in real life is what it is going to do. So there was, I don't know how many of you guys have heard of this. There was this chatbot which was released by Microsoft, like I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it was learning from its interactions on Twitter, and after even within like a week of being out on Twitter, it turned racist, right? And was it intended this way? No, it wasn't. It's just that based on the interactions, that's what it picked up, right? Based on all the human interactions that it had. So I think it's a very thin line. The question is very, very valid, right? Because it is probably the reality of what we see around us. And that's probably what the model has learned. So I know there are a number of firms and a number of organizations who are working on this space as well, right? In terms of how do we make it less biased? How do we counter for all of these, real life things which we see around us? Where do we use AI, and where do we need to have human complement AI, right? In taking such decisions. I think all of those. I don't think there's like one clear answer to this, but I definitely know that there are people working towards this, right? And hopefully in the years to come, we move towards a more neutral and unbiased future.
Thank you, Ranjini. So, Ranjini, I just want to add a question to this. So, do you think that when these models are built, the data, the underlying data that we have is already biased? All right, it could be to a specific gender or a specific product. And as a result, the model is still learning from that biased data. And hence, the outcomes are biased. Do you think that it is time to even look at uh, as in the data the starting point, and ensure that our classes are balanced? What do you think could be a solution to this?
Yeah, both short term and long term, right? As you rightly pointed out, Vinita, I think we definitely need to take into consideration what is it that we're training this on. Is it actually what we want the model to learn, right? And those are and this is, if it's a real data, this also indicates a systemic issues which we have as a society, which is why you see what you see. So I think definitely it helps for organizations and whoever is using it to be aware of the implications of training it on actual data, and are they actually take into consideration all of these biases which will creep into the models, and are they accounting for this, right? And then finally, when you get the outcome, and while you're interpreting this outcome, are you interpreting it in the right context? And you're having, like I said, right, a human complement these decisions, apart from just taking it at face value based on what the outcome is in itself.
Right. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Ranjini. And now there is another question from Nimmi. Nimmi, just correct me if I'm putting the question right. So, in a research work from management perspectives, they do not give a thumbs up to AI impact on business. So, what can be done in this area?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I understand this question right. Benita,
Sure,
could
sure.
you
Yeah,
explain
Nimmi, you
this?
want to take that question? I'm not sure if I put the question right.
Can I interrupt?
Sure, sure. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a researcher from management area, and I've been reading on the impact of this data analytics as well as AI on management decisions. And when I see the literature, when I see the works coming up in very good journals, they don't give a full thumbs up that this thing is putting away what it was supposed to do. So how could we come up with some solution for this? or is it possible? No, we can come up with a solution in near future.
All right. Yeah. So if I understand the question right, what you're saying is that AI being used for taking management decisions, it's not being given a thumbs up, or it's not completely acknowledged, given the lack of impact it has, right? So that's how I interpret the question. So yeah, I think that was part of the crux of the session. Nimi, right? In terms of, if you ask me, does it have an impact? Yes, absolutely it does, right? So we do use business analytics and machine learning to help management take decisions. That is one key reason why we use this, right, around decision making. So is there tangible impact which they see? Definitely. But is there challenges in getting to that as well, right? It's not and the reasons is just what we saw so far in terms of all of the gaps which exist around data, people, process, infrastructure, all of that, right? But having said that, I definitely still believe that there's huge impact possible, right? Especially, for example, I think I spoke. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Ranjani. Yeah, we just lost you in between 5 seconds. Now we can hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So kind of just to summarize, right? While we do have all of these challenges, there still is substantial measurable impact, which we have seen, and I'm sure other companies continue to see by using ML for decision making within the organizations.
Thank you, Ranjani, and thank you, Nimmi. Any other questions? I guess there were a few other questions, Julian, right? So can we take that up now? Ranjani, there was a question on why AI implementations will fail to meet business expectations. So, Han, how we can address that gap? So, I'm assuming the session had covered that.
Yeah, I would say that was the crux of the entire session.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, see, the thing is, right, I probably gonna reiterate one last point over there around this. So AI in itself is not a feature. I remember reading this somewhere, right? It is, I've heard so many people say, oh, you know what, our product is powered by AI. A number of startups say this with the assumption that just the presence of AI in itself is just gonna answer questions, right? It doesn't. Bottom line is, what does it enable us to do? It's only as valuable as the outcome that it helps drive, and that's, I think, should be the center of what we are trying to do.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. And one last question that came was, I think you already spoke about talent, but with respect to that, somebody had a question on what are the easy ways to understand and study machine learning?
Yeah, so that's a very generic question, but let me take this because I know that I've heard like multiple versions of this, right, in terms of
Yeah, there are so many takers to this, Ranjini, nowadays. Many of them want to take up machine learning, AI, and data
right.
science. So, yeah, I
Hmm.
think this is one question I think pops up,
Yes.
and there is no one answer
Hmm.
to this.
Yes. So I remember, I know, Benita, we were talking about this, right? We were kind of putting together, I was talking to a data scientist on my team, and we were like, let's just list out all the things which people may need to know. And we came up with like a 10 checklist of
Yeah.
what I know. So maybe I can just run you guys through that. Okay. So first of all, when you say, I want to be part of it, I would start with, why do you want to be part of it? Why does it matter to you? And that question and the answer to that is super important because that's how you would start. And for example, right, there are people on my team who are great storytellers. They are data scientists, business analysts, but they are more interested in explaining that to the business stakeholders, right? They're very good at that, very consultative in terms of what they want to do. There are some who are very good data engineers, right? So they are also data scientists, but they like understanding, okay, how does the data architecture look like, right? Like what kind of pipelines can I create? Things like that. How do I interface with, say, the IT team? And then there are those who come with a solid software engineering background. So they are all different types, right? So I think the question one needs to start with JDs, right? To see what are the skill sets and what is it that interests you? What kind of person are you? What is close to yours, right? So that is probably the second point. Not all the data scientists are the same. How do I identify areas that align to your strengths? The third thing is to probably talk to a data scientist, right? Understand what does a day or a week in the life of a data scientist look like. I've had some folks who have been really interested about it, but once they start working on it, then they realize, oh, it is probably way different from what I anticipated in a good or not so good way, depending on where they come from. But understand the reality, right? So talk to people and understand how a day in the life of a data scientist looks like. Yeah. Point four, I think there's just so many of them. If you look at the CVs, right, there's so many of them who call themselves data scientists, which is okay. But then it shouldn't just be on your resume, right? Can you get your fundamentals right and solid? So um, this next is around certifications. Everyone asks, okay, what kind of certification should I do? Honestly, there's just so much of good content available out there. You can pick up one of those depending on where you start, right? Which is by the why question. And then getting real world experience and reassessing interest, I think, is important. So like, that's why I was saying, identify stretch projects. If you're already in working, but not in that space, see if you can work with those teams, right? Get some real world experience. And I would also say build a social presence if you can to showcase ability. Yeah, it's everyone has a great thing on paper, but then are you actually, like, you can build a solid portfolio of what you can deliver, and that is something people cannot question, right? And that differentiates you from the rest. So try doing that. Also seek out mentorship from people in this space. They can help you out with questions you may have, and do not kind of hold yourself back. Sometimes I think people think that, oh, you need to be from a particular college, you need to be from a particular background to do this. No, not necessarily, right? So there's nothing around, okay, these are the only ones who make the cut. And probably last point is around finding out what kind of real world problems are solved, right, by data science. And it's not just only the cutting edge stuff. There's a lot of problems we see, and of all of them. So I know that's a lot of stuff, but definitely this is a point which has come up multiple times. So I hope this.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Ranjini. It was very elaborate, and I think it has answered the question very well. If anyone has any doubts on the questions that we just asked, if you need more answers or if you have any different questions, you can type it on the chat window, or you can just unmute and ask the questions directly to Ranjini.
Yeah. So I'd like to go. So Ranjini, I would just like to know your thoughts on. So currently, we have like a lot of companies who train people to become data scientists, and there's a lot of effort and investment being put into, like, literally months and months are being spent by the company to make sure that they are trained. And what I felt personally is that once the title is given, the designation has changed from data engineer to data scientist. Um, like, I think I just want to know, do you think it's time we should have a CSR for data scientists? Like, the company has like gazillions of data scientists by the end of 2 years, and I don't see, like, maybe we have to hold ourselves responsible for knowing the how powerful data science can be, and we still haven't solved problems. Like, if you look at Mumbai, you have waste management, you have air pollution, you have so many things where you can actually make a difference. But there's the amount of data scientists is not equal to the amount of work being taken up as a project. Forget about side projects or stretching your own projects. The company itself is not thinking about whether we can actually put our data scientists to work and within our own city. Like, when we are having WiDS Mumbai or WiDS Kerala, we wanted to have something that can do that. And do you think companies think about it, or is it time that they think about it on a local level?
Yeah, no, right. No, that's a good question, right? I think a lot of, first of all, yeah, the premise in itself, I do see where you're coming from in terms of being able to use all of this talent and potential towards tech for good, right? And tech for good is something many companies do take seriously. Whether they are using data scientists to solve for this larger issues under CSR, I think it varies across companies. Maybe Julian, tech for good definitely is an area which we focus on as well. But then, how do we go about it? I think it depends on every company, and I can't address it for across. But definitely, it's still a niche space, right? It is isn't really mature and prevalent yet, but that's a very good thought, and I hope that that is something which does grow as we go forth into this future.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Any more questions? We still have 10 more minutes. All right. I think then we can wrap up. Thank you, Ranjani, so much. The session was very informative. In fact, personally, for me too, to really understand more about AI and how it needs to be looked at, how these problems need to be looked at while taking up AI in our projects. And of course, I think the audience also had a good time understanding more about the subject. We will get back to you for more questions. Till then, I think thank you so much. And also, thank you to the audience for joining this on a Saturday evening.
Absolutely. Pleasure being here. Thanks, Vinita. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And have a good Sunday.